I was there at the Warlord Games Open day, and I wrote down all the stuff I was told as it happened, so you can trust what I say. It isn't half remembered. I have heard from many other people with their reports, and their recollection differs from my notes. I have nothing about an invasion of Canada. I don't know where people kept hearing that. My information comes straight from the horse's mouth. Or like, the severed head of the horse, and now I'm showing you. Nope, that doesn't work. Metaphor died with the horse. It was nice to chat to people at the event. Some people recognize me instantly, so I do look like this. I missed the influencer talk at the start, so I don't know some stuff that I wasn't meant to tell you. But so never mind. I wandered around instead and found myself in a room with a Matilda tank. I was getting told something very interesting about the resin, but then I got distracted by the Matilda. Then I was told something very interesting about the process that they use to make the resin, but I got distracted again by the same Matilda. Preamble done. Let's talk about the future of Konflikt 47. Books. Many books. There are 3 or more novels coming, although they describe them as 5,000 word novels, so I would say novella. Even if it was like 50,000 words, it's a novella. That's a NaNoWriMo amount of words. But the books will be there to expand and deepen the lore, as well as give you fiction stories. Don't know any particular topics, I could only list off some cool ideas. For example, D-Day against zombies, Battle of the Bulge against werewolves. I don't know if they would want to retell any of the existing stuff that we have in the game books, but in novel form. No idea. In Konflikt 47, the latest they're planning to go in the main timeline is 1947. The idea was this stops talks about, well, are we now playing Konflikt 48 or Konflikt 49? The Rift War, as it's called, is 1947. So the books that have lore and scenarios, starting with Festung Europa and continued in Invasion Amerika, will continue. Maybe as many as 7 books. And each book will come with a free STL that you can 3D print, like the Sturmreiser and the Defense Tower that we see in one of the missions in Invasion Amerika. Each of these books will focus on a different part of the world and have lore from before, like Festung Europa had stuff about D-Day, and the Invasion Amerika book had information about the failed invasion of Iwo Jima. So each book continues the story of one area, and it'll do stuff that happened before and during 1947. So even though Invasion Amerika was summer 1947, there was some information about what happened in this alternate world in 1942, and what happened earlier in the year with a Soviet incursion. You can watch my video that explains everything in Invasion Amerika. So my guess for future books, they could do fictional events, have Britain and the Soviets fighting over Sweden, Norway, and Finland. They could have a Pacific-focused book, look at the US retaliation after Invasion Amerika, but also a bit more on the Burma campaign in the past and how the British won that, and how the war is going in China. Maybe another book about the war in Italy, and if the North Africa campaign was altered by Rift Tech, or if that was too early into the Konflikt 47 lore before anything rifty had happened. Though we've also seen in Invasion Amerika, the Battle of Midway was changed, even though that had no Rift Tech involved. These are all hypotheticals, so you can do your own stuff. Maybe you want to have an Axis strike into the Sudan to get something from an ancient Egyptian tomb that the Green Vault wants. But they're not going to do like in Bolt Action and label Rift units as early, mid, and late Rift War. Like the Totenkorn Paragons and the Mark I automatons could be considered early Rift War, Mark II automatons and the Onryo Walkers could be mid Rift War, none of that. None of that. Flexibility is there so you can play whatever you want. Even in Bolt Action, I suppose, you're not forced into late, mid, or early war. Unless you're playing at an event which is late war Italy, for example. The next book that's coming out is going to focus on the British Commonwealth and the Soviets. Probably. More automaton stuff. The Commonwealth may try and make their own Rift source, or some way of like battery powering Rift tech, because they don't have an open Rift, as the Axis does with Dresden, the Americans do with Area 51, and the Japanese do on Iwo Jima. So Britain could have more of like an AI takeover or a bit of a civil war. This is first mentioned in the back of the Invasion Amerika book. Are you sure Bertie still got your back? Anyway, something is coming for the British with big lore implications. Evil robot hero? Don't know. What to expect less is Konflikt 47 French. People got really hyped up about seeing Konflikt 47 French written on a whiteboard. It's there along with Konflikt 47 Undersea Cyber Fish Game. The reason it is there is not because it is coming, but because within the studio, it has been so heavily requested that it's become a running joke. They're not going to do Konflikt 47 French until all of the Rift War arc is done. Once all the Rift War books are done, then they could expand the factions, do Konflikt Italy, do Konflikt France, and have a series of books with rules and missions beyond that. And then they could decide to do a new edition of the core rules. It could be a total revamp, or they may want to go into 1948 and beyond. Being like, hey, here's the core rules, which tells you how to play any of the events from 1947 or previous, and also what's going to happen into 1948. Already there's a lot of scope within the core rules for them to use. There are some weapons in there that no unit in the game currently wields. I'm hoping that they take their time with these books and don't rush out a new edition just because, in theory, they need an FAQ for a few more things and don't want to change the main book, but we'll get onto that. New models. The success of Plastic and their Plastic releases has let them accelerate their rules and releases. So the Commonwealth Plastic Automatons, the Mark IIc Director, the Automated Platoon was not meant to come out until the next book. Instead, they're out far sooner because of the advances in Plastic. Similarly, the new Ursus in Plastic, they were not planned yet, and they could remake the Ursus Commissar. Don't know if they will. But the previous intention was that with each book came one walker and one infantry sprue and maybe 2 characters. That had been planned with each book release. Instead, they've been able to do far more. Konflikt 47 is really popular. It was the most popular seminar of the day, and there is greater demand for the game than was previously expected. With more advances in Plastic, more units are going to get remade into Plastic, walkers included. So knowing this, fewer people may want to buy resin walkers if there's a Plastic version coming. I would also say, maybe wait if you can, see what's available by Christmas, and if you haven't got the walker you want in Plastic by Christmas, then yeah, I guess you would want the resin one. Whenever you like, oh, I need this, it's whenever your urge to need this meets up with the option of, do I need this in Plastic? Plastic things are easier to put together, and if it's a big walker, it's easier to have them look like they're running. Okay, got a lot of pictures. Percival can get updated. This is the Percival that is in the current Commonwealth Starter Army set. It's going to have at least one alternate version with 2 twin heavy machine guns and an auto cannon in the front. I think that should be an anti-tank cannon, but the words that were spoken to me were auto cannon. People can misspeak. I'm expecting it's an anti-tank cannon. There should be a kit that makes either, possibly also the option to have it with fists instead of guns. But definitely Percival with basic cannon and heavy machine guns. I don't know if that will be the same Percival rule set or if it'll be split over 2 datasheets. It may be different kind of weapon options for different numbers of points. Like how on the Churchill Meteor, you can replace the anti-tank gun with a light howitzer, but it's fewer points, or you can replace the front-mounted medium machine gun with a flamethrower, and that's additional points. There should be options to, instead of having the Tesla cannon on the front, have a radium/corrosive cannon. I don't think there's any current rules for that gun in the core rulebook, but it would be nice to see Tesla being pushed as more of the United States thing, and the more corrosive weapons as the Commonwealth Rift weapon of choice. Again, something that could be pushed a bit more in the coming big book. The Merlin Heavy Walker is going to get redone in Plastic. The American Grizzly and its alternate versions like the Bruin and the Kodiak, and an alternate way to make a Grizzly Mark 10 with a top-mounted cannon, which will be an upgrade instead of its own unit entry. So if you want the M10 letters and numbers Grizzly, that will be a variant of the M8 letters and numbers Grizzly. We might see the little Coyote redone with more of a melee focus, or have an option for more of a melee focus. I don't know if then the Commonwealth Guardian can be built from that. Currently they're essentially the same model, and you decide if it's an American one or Commonwealth one depending on which army it's in. We might see a bit more of a split there. especially since I think we're building up to, in the lore, a proper split between the US and the Commonwealth. They may become more of the uneasy neutrals, the way like the Axis and the Japanese are. There were many tank turrets, Tesla Chaffee, twin Sherman cannons, but those have been around on a desk for a while. I'm pretty sure they were there last year. So it's coming is a maybe. Some of this stuff is only concept. A lot of the bits you see are a mix of what is coming and getting worked on, and also past cancelled ideas. A Chi new tank with double Shiboro cannon? That could come soon or not, don't know. I can't say for certain which one is this is coming if I wasn't told explicitly that it's coming. You see the Flying Stuart on a hover stand? We'll talk about that a bit later. Big Soviet tanks are going to get remade in plastic with several alternate weapons, like a heavy transport version, one that's bristling with machine guns, as well as remakes of the current resin kit in plastic. Again, don't know if it's going to be hey, you can build different versions of it from one kit, or if they'll be separate kits. The plastic Mark I platforms, rather than the resin version, it would make sense if they were coming soon. You know, British, big automaton focus, next book, as well as some special versions in the back, and a Mark II version with 2 heavy automatic cannons. New and coming or cancelled project? Can't say for certain, but I think coming is the more likely version. What is coming is Nacht Alban and Moro's Ghoul. These will be available so you can pose them to look like existing models, or mix the arms up to make your own poses. They will replace the current resin versions. One thing I found down in the warehouse, unsupervised, was a Japanese platoon commander with team in his own box. That has the commander and 5 other models. The preview version of the rules I was given shows you can add up to 5 more models to a Ghost platoon commander, but the version that everyone got released shows only adding 2 more models. I think that may get updated in the next patch of rules. Anything from the cabinets that's painted in there is coming out within the next few weeks and months, and should be available to pre-order soon. When it does, don't forget that I have an affiliate link linked in all of the descriptions of all of my videos. It's appreciated if you use that. So Captain Kuma, Captain Leo Bianchi, he can wield the samurai sword he took from Kimura, or have a Tesla weapon. And I'm told that it would be foolish to think that he was the only Paragon that was going to be released. We may see more mutated looking Paragons, or a redone Paragon set with more mutant looking options available. Svetlana and Nina, definitely coming. Big anti-tank rifle sniper, a daughter of the motherland to carry the weapon, and you get a little barricade, which you can add on. It's entirely optional. The gun isn't braced on the barricade. It's just there to make it look like more of a cool scene. And there will be new starter armies. I don't know what will be within all of them, if they're going for all plastic models, like plastic Ursus in a Soviet version, a plastic Merlin and plastic Mark I and Mark II automatons in the Commonwealth version. I don't know. Hopefully they will be out before Christmas. I think that is their intention. Then they can get a sales boost from the holidays. But the Soviet starter set, which is currently lacking, is coming far sooner. They don't have a current one, only the previous edition one, which was also very bolt action plus in theme. I have seen the new T-34Z turret. I think that could be on there in the starter set. But hypothetical models. They're not planning on doing upgrade sprues for bolt action units. They could, but that's not what is planned. So you won't get a basic American infantry with a few Tesla rifles available instead of SMGs. The idea is they're going to make specialist units with rift weapons instead of bolt action upgrades. So British Grenadiers, Daughters of the Motherland, Type A Japanese squads with Shiboro rifles, instead of making any kind of folk Grenadiers with rift tech. A Super Piet team for the British is an option. No model currently made. Toten Core Ursus, another defense value 7 zombies? Maybe. Plastic Shibutu? Possibly. Someone in the seminar raised a very good idea of a Matilda Hedgehog with corrosive weapons, a Matilda Meteor, and they were told, yeah, if there's an in-universe reason for it to be there. then they could make it. Apparently this was not an invitation to explain such a reason, and that brilliant idea Smith had to shut up. The Onryo Walker is not ready yet. It should be available to at least pre-order in November. The problem was with a manufacturer who was going to do them, and only recently, like relatively recently, that could have been 9 months ago, they switched to a different company to get them done. And apparently this new company can do them better and faster. So all of the Onryo Walkers you can see present in photographs were 3D printed versions. No, they won't share the file, but you can see the size of it compared to a linebacker if you want to start making your own proxy version or kit-bashed version. They talked quite a bit about quality control, so the Walker wasn't going to be good enough, they switched manufacturer and delayed the Walker. The yellow Rift dice with the black markings have a lot of bubbles in them. They've changed them to yellow Rift dice with white markings, and those are fine. Maybe you have your own yellow Rift dice story. I don't have them. The United States Heavy Infantry were another unit that didn't look right when they'd done them. So the model that's coming out will have a unit. I am guessing that rather than this being some new defense value 7+ unit, it will be a redo of the existing Heavy Infantry squad. It looks like the same, it looks the same size, and this guy looks like he has a big cannon, which I don't think is an option at the moment. The lore for these Mark 1 grade power armored chaps mentions them using Tesla weapons. Those should be coming soon, so when you get the guy, his unit will have the option for some Tesla weapons, and then they'll update the unit rules. Stewards that hover. When they first did this new version of the core rulebook, they had hover rules included. The hover rules and a few other rules, but not many rules, were scrapped. They considered it too much of a leap that you can have hover tech at the same time as you're just getting into jump tech. It was too much of a technology leap in too short a span of time, even with Rift tech being basically magic to do whatever you want. So the Steward was made, it is on the desk with the other coming soon stuff, but then it was scrapped for breaking the law. They do a grounded first approach, then weird war. Hence the response to my Matilda question, or someone's brilliant Matilda question. Other dropped rules are things like, after spending a Rift dice, it would stay on the table as a token, and could then be picked up by another unit and used. It felt a bit silly, apparently, and you could get units running around just collecting other people's Rift dice. There was also initially planned to be 4 different levels of power armor for infantry, so that would be like defense value 5, 6, 7, and 8, maybe, or higher. That was then dropped down to 2 levels and kept within the current quality rating. But what they do needs to match the law. They initially had 12 zombies, like Totem Core, made up for every faction, but because the Festung Europa book was Axis versus Americans and Axis versus Russians, they limited the release on the sprues to those 3 factions. So there are lots of other zombies available there as like 3D prints maybe, in resin. I do not think they are coming. Even though other influencers have pointed these and said, they're coming! Look, they're coming! I doubt it. How many people are going to buy alternate sculpts of some zombies? How many people are going to know there are alternate sculpts of some zombies? So we've got a zombie British Galahad, a zombie in Soviet Guard armor, zombie Japanese officer, zombie Scotsman carrying his own leg, zombie whose head's fallen off and a chicken stood on top of him, zombie pulling a spade out of his guts and then holding his guts with the spade. There may be some inspiration from these for the Japanese Shibito zombies. You will notice that the current metal version has Japanese and mainly Australian and American themed models. Same kind of approach. It has to match the law. Right, new rules. They're not going to make any big changes to the core rules. Big changes to the rules invalidate the core rules with mass revisions, which makes the rules redundant to have bought, like how the Games Workshop core rulebook for 11th edition is not worth getting even now, like 2 months after launch, and any codex they release will be changed within 24 hours of release, perhaps the 24 hours before release, and then a bigger revision made within a few months. I know people are crying out for tweaks or revisions to crush weapons. It is not happening. The basic Shibora rifles and other crush weapons were made cheaper, but the rules will be the same. They have no plans to nerf what I see as a bit of a problem, which is the massive number of damage value 7+ and 8+ units that you can field in, especially Axis armies. Rather than make these kind of units worse, they're gonna give other factions more ways to deal with them. Slowly, through releases. Then it's up to you to supplement your army to include weapons that can deal with them. They're not going to add the impossible damage rule to ranged attacks. That's where you roll a super 6, a 6 followed by a 6, if you're in combat. They're not going to do that for Pen 0 weapons. And that's fair enough as a response. But a lot of people were asking each other throughout the day, is it okay to take 8 bears? Is 12 bears okay? Is that too much for an event? I think it's a bit of a problem, but they're putting it on players to not abuse it for now, until the game, like the Rift War stuff, is fully done. It is not fun to face an army of all defense value 7, even if you can beat it. This is why in your first game, I really don't recommend including such units, even though the Style Troop are now part of the starter set. It's something I see as a problem, but my views on that another time. What they will do is update FAQs and erratas, which sometimes happens, but mostly they change the factions' free PDFs. Like the Japanese stuff that came out has some confusion, which I've talked about a bit already. You can teleport a Ghost Squad and then shoot as part of the Ghost Platoon. The rules say they have to be set up at least 6 inches away. Some people think that means more than 6 inches, so not in point blank. I read it as exactly 6 inches away or some more. Asking one of the staff members on a try it out table, they said it was meant to be more than 6 inches. I said, that isn't what the words say. Then I chatted to like the head writers and was told, look, I could say one way or another. What I say isn't a rule, only an FAQ or updated version of the PDF is the real rule. So it's going to be up to your group. Current wording appears to allow you to be exactly 6 inches away, even if the intention is unknown. So fair enough as a response, but if I've got the writer there and they were able to give me the intention behind the rule, that would have been nice. But then they could discuss and revise and say, oh, actually, it's fine. Turns out being able to shoot point blank is what we need to make Shibora rifles or SMGs good for the Japanese. And then it could be in an FAQ, yeah, exactly 6 inches away is totally fine. Other types of game mode were mentioned. Things like a skirmish version of Konflikt 47. Kind of like what we see as the first mission in Invasion Amerika. An official tournament pack with tournament missions. A narrative campaign they could release separately. A narrative campaign pack to play over a weekend. All of these are things that they could do, but there are constraints in time and the number of staff and what they want to work on instead, which is generally the main rules. Would we really want a campaign pack that's set entirely in a French village, regardless of which factions are playing? Here's a picture of a French village. It has seen better days. Here's a picture of the French village that appears in the background of a lot of the photographs. And chatting to, I want to say, the lead photographer, official titles unknown, he was explaining how it took 3 hours to make this Indiana Jones looking photograph by setting up so many boxes with a set background, taking a picture, moving everything about 6 inches backwards, with a set background, taking another picture, doing it again, but rearranging the boxes, and that took 3 hours to get. So he was very pleased that it ended up in the Invasion Amerika book. If you get a chance to go to the open day next year, it's a good idea. It's really fun. There are a lot of cool stuff you get for your money's worth, not just as influencer people. Influencer people, influencing people with their knowledge and information and desires upon the game. Matilda Hedgehog, make it. But you get pin buttons, you get some dog tags with Bertie on. I got a pike and shot English Civil War sprue. There's 80 models right there. Models, 80 individuals, yeah. There was a special Firefly with the flamethrower and a Stahltruppen. You get £25 off your army set, so that is the price of the ticket back if you buy an army set. We were able to take bad sculpts from the print reject box. Someone got 3/4 of a walker, like only missing a leg. Good for them to do quality control, but they also let people take away the almost perfect bits. I'm okay with that. I will allow it. Again, around the resin, I was given a model. There was a choice of an elite Totenrot platoon man in the advanced body armor, or you could have a bolt-action Soviet officer with a flare gun. I got a dog. Little dog. Quite a big dog, actually. And you get the Konflikt 47 Soviet man with a flag, who also came with a metal 8th Army LMG man with an Australian hat or a Brody helmet. And there was a painting competition where you get to keep the Bertie you painted. If you can make it, it's worth going. I don't know if I'll be there next year, but whether I see you in person or see you in another video, I hope you have a great day playing Konflikt 47.